It's Olight release day, and I'm especially freaking out because I'm making this video just hours before it's going to be released in synergy with everything else. So I'm rushed. If I look a little frazzled, you'll get it. I'm trying to get the information out to you, and I'm being very strategic about it. You know, there's a lot of announcements today. Sphere, Perun 3, Baton Turbo, really going to talk about this one, and the new Arkfeld Colorway for saving the pets, and the Arkfeld Ultra, which is a new version of the Arkfeld. Okay, let's get to it, and I'm really excited. Welcome back to Shoelights. Okay, so I strategically spent the limited time I had for reviewing these products on 3 of the items they sent me, and I didn't even unwrap from the cellophane the Perun 3 headlamp or the Sphere. And let me tell you why. I really like their Olight Bulb Pro. I use it nightly with my daughter. It's got timer features. She likes the different colors, and it's just a great kind of bedtime lamp for her, you know, so the monsters don't get her. She's only 4. However, the Sphere, from what I understand, is kind of like a new clear outside. You can see the inside's a little different. Again, I didn't even open it. And the reason why is because I would rather just deep dive into a couple things than just do a bunch of, unboxings. So I'm going to set those aside and either leave that for someone else to talk about in depth, or maybe I'll release a video later. Haven't decided. But what I do want to tell you is I got consumed with the idea of the Arkfeld lately. Now, hang on. Let me give you a little backstory before we get into this. So this is the Arkfeld Pro that I've reviewed months ago, and we'll link to it up here, okay? So for that review. And I'm not going to go in depth over the UI or anything like that, but I want to say that I just started carrying this daily, and you know I've got tons of lights to choose from, but I started carrying it daily because of the fact that I finally swapped it. Now, I delayed swapping the emitter for so long, and if you know my channel, you know I like high CRI. I don't care about losing a little bit of lumens, and I love warmer tints. So I put the new Fireflies emitter, FFL 351A 4000K Rosy in it, and it's gorgeous. Doing it was actually much easier than I thought. I've flirted with the idea of prying off this bezel and doing it for a while, but I guess it just seemed hard, and I had a really hard time with a Baton 2 a while ago. It was just a pain in the backside, so I just kind of didn't do it. Then somebody on Reddit said, hey, I just swapped my Arkfeld, and I was like, okay, I gotta try this again. So I did, I swapped it, and if you look at the bezel on it, you can see that I did a really great job. Let me get it really close into it. You can see that, at least in my opinion, well, there's a little chingus there, but honestly, I don't even think that was there. I think I've picked that up in carry. I did a really good job, and I'm really happy with it. So, there's the likelihood you might mark it up a little bit, but, I carry this with my keys in my pocket too, which I know I shouldn't. I'm sure that wasn't there before. So, they introduced a new Baton Turbo, and this Baton Turbo is a new class of light for Olight, and it's designed to complement the Arkfeld, in my opinion. I mean, I guess truly it could complement any flooding EDC light, because this is an ultra small thrower. So why I think it complements the Arkfeld so well is because the Arkfeld does so much that I like. It does, flood, a laser, UV. It's got sleep timers. It's got all kinds of functions that I would use in a variety of settings. Like if I find myself at a hotel and I want a sleep light, I can go 9 minutes, I can go 3 minutes, it turns itself off. It's got a magnet so that if I'm broken down on the side of the road, I can stick it to the hood. I mean, there's so much I like about it. But the one thing it's missing is any real penetration for hundreds of meters away. And that's where the new Baton Turbo falls in. So I'm going to show you later in the Beamshots how these things complement each other, but I'm telling you that since I've released this Baton Turbo, these two, this one sits in my front pocket with my keys, as I said, and this one sits in my back pocket, and now I've got covered 99% of anything a flashlight enthusiast would want. So, really impressed with these products. Now, before I get to Beamshots and some other talk here, I want to point out that there is a new colorway offered here. This is really cool. This is a Pro, just like that black Pro I showed you, but this is called, here's the cover for the box. This is called Support Pets, and it's just kind of a shimmery blue colorway here. Let me see if I can get that shine. It's hard to tell on camera. For some reason, it picks up really easy to my eyes, but on camera, that is not white text. That's like a shimmery, kind of silvery, that like picks up shine. So my camera's not really doing it justice, in my opinion. But besides it being real cute, anytime you buy this model, they're going to send $5 to a local U.S. Shelter. So I don't know the specifics of that, but that's what they announced. And so hopefully at the announcement tonight, Olight themselves will give more details on. I mean, is that local to the sale? Maybe it is. Maybe they know, from your address, and then they're going to do it that way. I'm not really sure. But they also announced Arkfeld Ultra. All right, Arkfeld Ultra. What's that all about? Okay, well, unfortunately, it's not as different as I might want it to be, but I guess they're kind of taking a cue from the Apple products and Apple Watch, right? Because you know how there's the Apple Watch and there's Apple Watch Ultra, and the Apple Watch Ultra is basically just a hardened, kind of hardier, more rugged version. Well, it looks like that's what's going on here. So inside this box, you've got this, and it is a new body style. So let's get a good look at this. Now, it's kind of iterative. It's not vastly different. Notice how the previous Arkfelds are just kind of rounded, and this one now has some facets to it, which I really like. Actually, it looks good, it looks classy, feels good. Instead of these grips on the side, we got these fine grips, which actually feel even better in hand, and they look just dynamite. So I like the look of it. Now, what else is different about it? Two big things that I can determine. The UI, let me just state, the UI, the emitter, the laser, the UV, identical. Okay, so the internal workings are exactly the same as other Arkfeld Pros. So what makes it Ultra? Well, it looks like they tried to ruggedize it. So the biggest difference, there's like a big difference and a tiny difference. The biggest difference looks to be this new metal. So this metal is a proprietary type of aluminum alloy that Olight has come up with. So what they're looking to do here, and only time will tell if this is true, is they're looking to make it out of aluminum instead of titanium for it being better heat distribution, lighter weight, but then they've constructed an alloy that's supposed to harden the aluminum. So they're trying to get kind of a sweet spot between it not being as soft as aluminum, being more rugged, more scratch resistant, but also being lightweight. I like what they're doing. That's awesome. So, as I said, time will tell. And also, I have a sneaking suspicion that it's not just the alloy itself. I also have a sneaking suspicion that they have an oxidation layer, an aluminum oxide or anodization on the outside that hardens the surface and resists scratching. It's got kind of a beautiful goldish color. Kind of looks like gold to me. That's the color I'd describe it as. Anyways, the switch and the dial and everything feel just the same. So there's nothing different there. Now, there's two minor small differences, and I will actually show you right now under a microscope, but it has to do with the LED lights. So the lights on the Arkfeld here, you can see that there's 4 embedded LEDs, and when they turn on, they look like that. When they're off, they look like that. And they are exposed plastic from these holes that are cut out, but then, there's glue around them. Now on the Ultra, it looks like this. So now it's got this little, kind of moniker, which is, it's really obvious on the microscope. But if I go like this, you can see that you can't, it doesn't stand out that much. That battery kind of moniker around it to try and, tell you that's what it is. It's actually pretty subtle. But going back to the microscope, you'll notice that there's micro perforations that you can only see under a microscope. To your eyes, it just looks like, I don't know, a rough patch maybe. And the light emits now from inside the hole, so it looks like this at, 3 bars out of 4, and it would look like this if it was locked out. Now, the reason why I bring this all up is because their aim in kind of making this increased, more difficult perforations instead of just cutting it out. CNC cutting it out is much easier than the laser micro perforations they're using. But they've said in the past that they're doing it to ruggedize it, because now it's not a matter, like the glue that they use actually adheres to those little holes and fills them up instead of just kind of gluing around, a plastic lens of an emitter that's underneath a large hole. So it makes it more waterproof and it makes it harder to break the light. Now, there's one downside, and that is I noticed that the LEDs are not as bright. Let me try and show that to you right now. So here we go. If I hit this, you see the LEDs here, and I hit this, you can see these LEDs are definitely brighter than in here. See, they look a little dimmer. Let me try and do them at the same time. And boop. There you go. You can see they're about, I don't know, just a guesstimate, half as bright. Now, I'm under studio lights and you can still see it, so I don't think it's a problem. But I will note that in broad daylight, so if it's, noon and I'm in full sun, Arkfeld, which I've been carrying daily, it's sometimes hard to see the battery indication. I'd have to cup it. So I don't think you're going to see this at all in broad daylight. You definitely have to kind of cup it to read it. Okay, that's the changes. That's it. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing. Almost forgot. Clip change. I don't know how much is going to affect anything, but the clip is wider now. So there you go. It's a double clip like before, but I didn't have any problems with this clip. It worked for me perfectly. I took these both outside. I tested them. Laser's the same, UV's the same, emitter's the same. So new shape, new metal, a little bit of ruggedized features. All right, now let's jump into the Baton Turbo, which is really the star of this review. The Baton Turbo is so awesome. So the Baton Turbo is a tiny little light, and it is an 18350 light. So if I just kind of take the head off here, you'll see that there's a little 18350 in there. This is a proprietary cell, probably mostly again for their charging reasons. You can see that both poles are one side. However, I do want to point out that like the Perun 3 Mini headlamp, the battery goes in kind of opposite of what you expect, meaning that the head of the battery goes towards the tail, and then the head of the light screws onto the tail of the battery. It's not a big deal, but it's just kind of one of those things where if you're used to doing it a certain way and you put it in backwards, it's just not going to turn on, and then it's not going to fry or anything, and then you flip it around. But here's an interesting thing. By doing it this direction, and I don't know that Olight did it for this reason, but by having it backwards, you can use your own 18350 cells. Yay! You don't have to use their proprietary cells. Now, the magnetic end will still be magnetic if you use your own cell, but you will not have MCC charging. So the little puck that you go and then it charges, that will only work with their cell. However, you can obviously just take your non-proprietary 18350 out and throw it in your own charger. So that's kind of a win in my book. I like that. I have no problem with their proprietary cells, easy for me to say. I think that they last a long time. They have great run times and high discharge. Olight uses high quality cells, and my opinion is that the biggest reason that they want to use proprietary cells is not to trap you into their batteries for money. I don't believe that's it at all. I believe they do it because they want to trap you into their cells for safety. Remember that the only time that they ever had any problems was when people used inferior cells and then they were problematic in the lights. So I can totally see why this company would want you to use their stuff. So if you don't like that, sorry, but the good news on the Baton Turbo is you can now use your own cells. Comes with a cell though, comes with this proprietary cell, and you can charge. Now, here's another cool thing, okay? So I told you this is a thrower. Let's take a look at the front business end here. You can see it's got a nice deep reflector and it's got an emitter in there. Let me kind of get a good focus on this. What's that I see on the emitter? Oh, look at that. It's a round die. So it's going to give a really great round hotspot, right? Perfect. Wait a minute, round die? What's that new emitter that everyone's crazy about right now? Oh yes, the luminous SFT25R. That's what they're using. Now, they didn't say that, and I actually doubted for a second that it was that, but it's gotta be. Let me show you my evidence. Under the microscope, this is the Baton Turbo, and that's the emitter. So there's a really great shot of it. Now, if you look at it, it's got these bond wires, and a couple are kind of sideways, and some of them are kind of like vertical. And here is some SFT25Rs that I picked up from Kai Domain. And you can see that they're virtually identical. I see virtually because an eagle-eyed observer might notice that the two vertical bond wires are a little crooked on this one in the Baton, and here they're completely parallel. But I was talking to Tack Grizzly on Reddit, and we noticed that even in Luminous's actual marketing materials, we've seen those bond wires go from anything from parallel to a little bit crooked. So based on how the phosphor looks, based on the side of the mat around the phosphor, the die size, everything about it, this has got to be a luminous SFT 25R. I do not think it's some Chinese clone of the luminous emitter. I think that's what it is. Now, by contrast, let's take a look at this emitter, which is the emitter we find in the Welltool T1 Pro. This light also has a round emitter in it, and it looks like this. And if you notice, it's kind of missing a pair of the bond wires, and the ones that are kind of like parallel to each other are like longer, and the phosphor surface is even smaller than on these and these. And by the way, these shots were all taken at the exact same distance. So it's not like I'm just further away and that's why it looks smaller. They're literally on a microscope on a stand, all the same distance. So what I've concluded is that whatever's being used in the Welltool, I'm not sure what it is, but that the new Olight Turbo is 100% using the new luminous SFT25R, and it shows. So you know what, without any further ado, let's go aside, see some beam shots, and see exactly why this is the backup light that makes the Arkfeld a perfect combo for all situations. I'm outside with my fistful of lights here, and the reason why I got a fistful is first I want to show you the Baton Turbo with the Arkfeld Ultra, which is really just a match made in heaven. This is an EDC duo that does 99% of what you're going to need, and I'll show you that. Then we're going to take a look at the Turbo versus the two competitors, the Welltool T1 Pro and the Maker MC13-2 SBT90, which is a beast of a thrower, a beast of a pocket thrower, I should say. But I gotta point out that this Turbo, spoiler alert, is my new favorite pocket thrower. It's dethroned the T1 Pro for me, which I loved, and now the MC13, which I have a video that's coming out soon, but I just got this, and so if you see the video and you go, liar, no, it's just because they're releasing in opposite order, and this thing has dethroned it for me. Okay, let's jump into it and you'll see what I'm talking about. So let's take a look at this combo first. I will keep the Baton Turbo in my right hand for all these beam shots. We'll keep the Arkfeld in my left. And let's just talk about the fact that we're daylight balanced, we're exposure locked. This is a 20-meter tree right here under my finger. Not this one, but this one is 50 meters, and the row of palm trees is 150 meters. All right, let's jump to turbo, and you see how floody the Arkfeld Ultra is. It's a great EDC and very floody. Now, notice that I'm making this tree. Notice I'm making this tree, but I'm not making the row in the back. And that's when you jump in with your thrower. So double click, look at the intensity difference. Look at how it obliterates these trees, and I make it all the way to the back 150 meters. Let's take a look at the laser really quick, just for fun. So there's the 20-meter tree over here. We're gonna get the 55-meter tree, and then I'm gonna hit the back row of palm trees. Let me start in the back left. I can see it with my eye. I hope it shows on video. Now I'm in this middle left, middle right, and then the far right. Okay. So now you can see why this is such a great combo. You got up close, you got lasers, you got UV, and this is for the distance for 100, 150 meters away. Perfect. Let's take a look at how it does against other competitors. So the Well Tool T1 Pro really impressed me. It's such a tiny little thrower, but this is better. And look, it's the turbo's a little shorter. Yes, it's a bigger diameter, but that diameter really propels the beam, really matters. And in my pocket, I feel like it's a wash. Some people might really agree that this is tiny or tinier, and I could see why you'd like it, but man, this thing just destroys this one. Now, when you get to the Manker here, especially with the 18650 battery installed, this one is still the king. But at what cost, right? Look how big it is, and we'll talk about the differences in the Beamshots. So let's start out with Baton Turbo on the right and T1 Pro Little Duke on the left. Okay, so go to Turbo for the Little Duke, and there you go. That's the 20-meter tree. Let's go to Turbo here on the Baton Turbo, and you can see the difference is so pronounced. Let's go to the 55-meter tree. Huge difference, look at that. And then in the back, the Little Duke is making it, but barely. That's the T1 Pro, it's called the Little Duke. And there is the Baton Turbo. So it's a huge difference. Just so massive for just a little bit extra bigger host. So clear winner. Now, when you put these two together, this one's gonna win on paper, but let me explain why this one's probably still the winner. Okay, let's just take a look at them first. So double click with the Manker, and that's a ton of light, like so much light. Okay, let's go to here. I mean, it's a big difference, it really is. And then in the back, and it's not just more lumens, more candela, it's a bigger spot too. So this is the macho light. And if you want absolute, power in your pocket, this still wins. However, in that short time, I've been running it right on camera right now, this is already warm. And what does that mean? That means that this large, high discharge battery, and it is much larger. I mean, gosh, the tube is almost the size of this turbo light here. It is dumping wattage into the emitter, into the copper head here. That means that the runtime is going to be tiny, and that's just a known thing for SPT90 emitters. They're just giant emitters. So really, yes, it beats it, but in practice, this is everything I need for a long throw, and it stays cool to touch, and it runs longer, and it's a heck of a lot lighter. So the Baton Turbo with the SFT 25R emitter is just amazing. All right, let's take a look at these lights one more time. I didn't even mention that there's this really beautiful green colorway that the Baton Turbo comes in as well. It has black accents and a black button instead of the blue that's found on the black model. In every other way, it's identical. It's just a new color. But I do want to point out that it has a very rich green, lustrous, shimmery quality to it. It's one of the best greens I've seen. And since both were sent to me, I immediately had to decide which one I wanted to stay on the shelf and which one I was going to beat up. And the green is so gorgeous that this is going to be my shelf light. And then this black one down here, that one's going to be the one that's going to be everyday carried with the black Arkfeld Pro. Now, This guy right here is gorgeous. This is gonna go on my shelf for now. I am not really hard on my lights. I'm pretty good with them usually. The fact that there's even a little nick on the bezel for my keys is kind of atypical, but it's also a sign of the fact that I'm willing to let this guy get a little scratched up because, you know, I got a couple Arkfelds now. I love the way this looks. I think it's classy. It's gonna go on the shelf next to this one. They have really great colors to them and it look neat. And again, don't want to sound like a broken record because I said this outside as well, but I'm always on the hunt for a pocket thrower. I'm always on the hunt because I've always got an EC light with me and I want this backup light. You know, one, if my battery runs out, I still got a secondary light. But secondly, you know, like everyone knows in this hobby, the holy grail is flood and throw together. And a long time ago, I realized that getting a complicated heavy light that has flood emitters and a throw, so like two optics and switching between them, is kind of annoying. Because why would I want to carry a bulky heavy light in my hand when all I need right now is close-up work in the house, for example? Or why, when I'm walking outside and I want something long distance, do I want to carry, again, a big bulky light when I'm not using the flood emitters? So I like two separate small lights. It is the holy grail for me. And so I've been carrying this along with some American Custom, usually the Malahini from Josh Dawson. But since I swapped this Arkfeld and since I got this Baton Turbo, this is the new glorious EDC combo for me that does everything I need. And you saw in the Beamshots that, and I have a video coming out on this, so don't call me a liar when you see the video and I just, you know, gush about this. It's still gush worthy, but because of run times and heat and all that, this is the combo. This is awesome. You just can't beat that. So there's your announcements, okay? A new sphere, the Perun 3, the headlamp for longer runtime, a colorway on the Arkfeld, and also the new Ultra. And then, of course, I think the star of the show is going to be this mini pocket thrower. If you, let me say it this way. If you have a casual affinity with flashlights and you're not kind of in the ultra know, let me just go on record as saying I haven't seen another pocket thrower this small and this effective ever. This is the new king of pocket throwers for me. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Oh, don't forget to look in the product description. I've got some affiliate links with the, you know, the sale prices. You know how Olight works. When they announce something, it's cheaper for a bit. If you want to use those affiliate links, it helps me out. Feel free to like and subscribe. And I'm so glad you stayed with us today, and I'll see you in the next review.